气候变化、地缘政治竞争威胁全球化理念。
The world's two biggest carbon emitters are China and the US. They're not the most friendly with each other at this point.
人工智能快速发展，挑战我们的思维和价值。
How do you think the nature of work will change?
What you used to do 20 years ago, today a machine does for you automatically. That task has disappeared, but new task has emerged.
我问金融管理局前局长孟文能，新加坡要怎么做？
What Singapore needs to appreciate is that the world is changing, and with every change, there's opportunity and there's risk.
We'll start with a longer time horizon, and perhaps you'll let us know what do you think the economy will change in the next 10 years?
I think if you take a 10-year horizon, one of the challenges will be economic growth. Global economy is facing many headwinds. The current phase of monetary policy tightening will taper off at some point over the next 1 to 2 years. The exact timing is uncertain. Once inflation comes down, interest rates will start coming down, but it's not going back to the old levels. So it will still remain higher than before. And that's a new adjustment that the global economy needs to make too. The other thing is that the levels of debt in the world are still too high. During the period of easy money, it was easy to borrow, and many corporates, households, and governments especially incurred a lot of debt. Now, that debt relative to GDP or other measures is still very high. And that, I think, will act as a constraint on new spending and new investment when your debt levels are so high. The world population growth is slowing, especially in Europe and America. Over the next 10 years, you're going to see continued increase in the ratio of those who are retired or those who are above 65 to the working age population. And that too has an impact on productivity growth and economic growth. I would imagine global economy on the whole to grow at a slower pace than say the last 20 or 30 years. But that is an average. I think there'll be very great differences across regions. And for businesses, it is a matter of understanding where those opportunities lie. There are many geopolitical risks in the world today. Principally, the contestation between the US and China will be a major backdrop to many geopolitical and geoeconomic developments. The contestation between the US and China traditionally started with restrictions on trade. So already we are seeing adjustments in trade flows. Now, these have not been overly disruptive. It has not been as bad as we initially thought, because I think global supply chains have adjusted to the tariffs that have been imposed by both China and the United States. Global investment flows are also changing. There are now greater restrictions on investments in each other's countries. And this is a fact of life in many parts of the world. Countries have become more sensitive to investments that come into their country and whether that poses security or even economic kinds of risks and threats. The third area of contestation is in technology. As you're aware, the United States has imposed quite severe and tight restrictions on how technology is used, and that technology does not end up in China, especially in semiconductors and chips, to protect those technologies. And of course, there's also a response then from China in terms of their own domestic investments in chip technology and so on. That's one area where the restrictions are very tight. You will see that increasingly in data, in artificial intelligence related technologies, probably also climate related technologies, biotechnologies, finally financial markets. Here, there's not been any major development, thankfully. The contestation in financial markets has been less pronounced, but it's always a risk that needs to be watched. So you're looking at I wouldn't say it is the end of globalization, but I would say it's a different kind of globalization with some degree of fragmentation. You're looking at a very different kind of world in the next 10 years.
So what should economies like Singapore do?
What Singapore needs to appreciate is that the world is changing, and with every change, there's opportunity and there's risk. There's good and bad, there's benefit and cost. And so we need to understand how trade patterns are shifting. Where are the supply chains shifting to? Are we in the right networks? Likewise, in technology space, what are the technology networks that we should be plugged into? So I think every business, especially global businesses in Singapore, need to make these assessments very carefully about how these changes are occurring and reposition themselves so that you maximize your advantages and benefits and minimize your costs. I think there'll be 4 big technologies that will be key. Artificial intelligence will probably be the most impactful in the next 10 years. That's going to change the nature of many jobs, and so a lot of adjustments. When those adjustments are made, it will be better. It'll be higher productivity. If you look at ourselves and our own experience over the last 10, 20 years of working life, has technology helped us or hindered us? I think generally it's helped us. It has helped us to do more things. We see technology all around us here, even in this room. It has helped us to become more efficient and productive. It has helped us to deliver more value added, higher quality of service. People are happier, they get better quality service and so on. But there's change. All of us had to adjust, right? I think the next 10 years is going to be the same. Robotics, I think we will see more in many manufacturing establishments, and robotics are able to do more work. Blockchains are another development that is worth watching. And I will add another one, the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is all around us. It is basically where, through sensors, we are able to bring a lot of data together. The watch that we wear has a lot of information. It's collecting information from many sources. When you go onto the internet, the search engines, it's collecting information from a lot of sources. It is pooling information together and giving you insights. So that, I think, increases efficiency and productivity a great deal. So these are the 4 big changes that are happening. It will be a changed outlook. Whether it turns out well or not depends on what we make of those changes and how we adapt and respond to those changes.
We know that in Singapore we're using a lot of blockchains, especially even for the government. So how do you think that, say, blockchain and digital currencies, they're going to shake up the future of our economy?
It's not just the blockchain. There are 2 related technologies. One is the blockchain, which is basically a distributed ledger, which keeps track of ownership and transfer of our assets, and in a decentralized way. And if it's done well, and many pilots have done it very well, you can substantially reduce cost. The other related concept, besides the blockchain, which is equally powerful, if not more powerful, is the idea of tokenization, which is really to take any asset and express it in digital form, where your ownership rights are embedded in it and it's placed on the ledger. So example, you have, say, your money, dollars, notes and coins. It's only because you have it in your hands, it's yours, right? It's in your pocket, so it's yours. But there's nothing there that says it is yours. When you express it as a token and put it on the ledger, the token itself identifies you as the owner. Now that's a very powerful idea. And you can tokenize bonds, equities, you can tokenize any financial asset, and you can also tokenize non-financial assets. So if a farmer has cows, he wants to borrow money from the bank, he can tokenize his cows theoretically, right? I think it has been done experimentally, and use that as collateral. People can tokenize their assets and monetize it and trade it on the blockchain. So I think with tokenization, you can fractionalize things.
So do you think that tokenization could be one potential tool that could solve some of the challenges that we're going to see in the next 10 years?
My view is that digitalization and the decentralized networks have been helpful to small and medium enterprises. For instance, in the old days, if you're a small, medium enterprise in Singapore, if you want to sell or in regional markets, it's very difficult. You have to go there, set up an office, supply chain, logistics, administration, getting local approvals and so on. If you want to source for supplies from other countries, you only know a few sources. You don't know where the best sources are in the entire world, the cheapest and best products for your supply chain. With digitalization, it has become a lot easier because using the internet, you can access foreign markets. And many of our small and medium enterprises are doing that, especially the startups. They're already beginning to get business directly in Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Africa as well.
How do you think the nature of work will change?
Many people focus on whether it's going to create jobs or whether it's going to destroy jobs. I think what's more important is that it is going to change our jobs. There will be some entirely new jobs. 20 years ago, there's no such thing as a cybersecurity specialist. Today there is. So that's a new job that's created. And there are a lot of such new jobs that are being created. But those happen at the edges, new jobs and jobs that are displaced. In the vast majority, to 80% of the jobs roughly, the jobs are still there, but the jobs have changed. Your job, when you started off, I don't know when, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and now has changed a lot. So I think what's important for us to do is to look at our jobs and divide it into tasks. What is going to be destroyed are some tasks. What you used to do 20 years ago, today a machine does for you automatically. A software program executes what you did manually before. So that task has disappeared. But new task has emerged. The jobs we do must be done in teams, in networks, and in ecosystems. Well, part of all our job we will still do on our own, alone. But a large part of our jobs involves a lot of integration, teamwork, and networking. Technology again helps, right? And I think organizations and businesses would have to invest heavily in creating these shared work environments. There are two kinds of implications from climate change for the global economy. One is physical risk. We are already seeing signs of climate change. I think it's already happening. We are seeing more droughts, more storms, more natural disasters, floods, and these are going to occur with increasing intensity and increasing frequency. And that is going to also have an impact on growth and businesses. The second impact is what we call transition, which is in order to avoid major climate change, we need to keep global temperatures increased to less than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Currently, we are increasing at a faster rate. The trajectory is not going to get us there. We need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, again, those efforts are not sufficient today. If you are using cleaner technology or greener energy, it is going to be on balance more expensive. Changing business process to become greener and more sustainable will also require investments, which means again, investments are diverted from other sources, which is why when we do stress tests and all that for short-term impact of transition, it's usually higher inflation, higher cost, and so on. But when you go from the old structure to a new structure, that transition is very, very painful. So I think we are at the cusp of something similar. Our current global economy, the economic structure is very carbon intensive and very energy intensive. 80% of the world's energy comes from fossil fuels. For every dollar of GDP you produce, now you need to ask how much emissions did I create? And it's not just manufacturing, services, all the computers that we use are also energy intensive. Data centers are energy intensive. So this will be quite a change. It will be like the Industrial Revolution. It's going away from the horse-drawn carriage to the motor car. The world's two biggest carbon emitters are China and the US. And they're not the most friendly with each other at this point. And so because of the tensions between these countries, the kind of cooperation that the world needs to fight climate change, to take a coordinated approach to carbon mitigation and reduction is today very difficult to achieve. I think that realization is does exist in both countries, but the actual collaboration and cooperation is not very much. So that is a problem. And because of that, then there are other countries who are also in different blocks. It makes it very difficult to collaborate.
But do you think there will be situations where individual countries will want to, say, grow faster at the expense of, say, climate, and then the world is not going to collaborate?
That's called the tragedy of the commons, right? In economics, you have, there's grass on the field. You have different farmers with cows. They all want their cows to eat the grass, but if everybody eats the grass, there'll be no grass left. It's like fishing. There's limited number of fish in that area. All the fishermen go and catch all the fish. Yeah. And why should I stay away so that the fish can grow when others go and catch the fish? So I will lose out. So why should I remove my cow from the field or restrict my cow's intake when other cows are eating so much? I think that's a problem. That's a problem globally. Everyone takes the view that I don't want to pay the cost, because if I pay the cost and nobody else pays the cost, I'm the loser. But if I don't pay the cost and everybody does something and the world becomes better, I free ride. But when you realize that this is the nature of the problem, then you have to cooperate, and then you have a solution, which is what the global process tries to do. Every country makes a commitment, I will reduce emissions by so much. And we trust that every other country will do the same. And every year they meet and discuss and see what the progress is, and there's a peer pressure to make sure that each country lives up to its commitments.